Hey everybody, so today I'm here to do a Q&A for you guys. This has been very much overdue. I think this was supposed to be April's Q&A, possibly even March's. I can't really remember, but I know I took your questions a long time ago and then I just have not got around to filming the Q&A, so I'm here today to finally do some of those questions. I'm going to start off with questions from YouTube. I ask questions over on the community tab on my channel, and then I am also going to get to a few from Instagram. So the first question is, can pumping be uncomfortable and can you get a cracked nipple if you're just pumping? And both of those answers are yes. It's typically pretty uncomfortable for the first couple to few weeks, maybe even 5 to 6 weeks of pumping, just like it kind of is uncomfortable to be nursing at first. There's a difference between uncomfortable and painful though. Uncomfortable is something that you will eventually get comfortable with, and as long as it's not actually painful, that's most likely where you're headed. Your body's just getting used to something new that you're doing, just like it would if you're nursing. However, if you do have a complication, something's not right, it's painful, that's definitely not normal, and you want to try and troubleshoot and work that out. And as far as the cracked nipple, absolutely, you can get a cracked nipple from nursing exclusively, pumping exclusively, doing a combination. No matter what you're doing, if you're breastfeeding, you can end up with a cracked nipple. I would say they're fairly common. They're pretty easy to treat as long as it's not a constant and chronic thing, and as long as you stay on top of it. You know, you don't want to ignore it. It's not going to get better by not treating it, so you want to make sure that you're keeping up with the care. My first suggestion is APNO, that stands for all-purpose nipple ointment. I have a video on how to make that. I will link that for you. And aside from that, a cracked nipple does indicate that there's a problem somewhere. So I would, again, troubleshoot to try and find that issue so you don't have that reoccurring. The next question is, how has this pregnancy been different or same compared to previous pregnancies? If you guys are unaware, I am 23 weeks pregnant with our third baby girl. As far as compared to other pregnancies, honestly, this is the one that I've felt the best from. It's not to say that I don't have aches and pains. If you watch my pregnancy updates, you know that I have stuff going on that doesn't feel the best. But at the same time, I feel like I'm in the position to feel the best, and I don't know how to really word it other than with Sophie, I was working 2 jobs until I was 38 weeks pregnant. I had a ton of stuff going on in my life at the time. I just felt very run down by the end of my pregnancy. I felt extremely tired. And with Remy, I was a stay-at-home mom at that point, but I was also chasing after my 9-month to 1.5-year-old because I did get pregnant with Remy when Sophie was like 9 months old. And that was a lot, you know. I was very sick with Remy in the beginning, so it was kind of tough to juggle all of that. But with this pregnancy, I am a stay-at-home mom, but both my girls are older. It's not quite as intensive. Of course, all parenting is hard. It doesn't matter their age, but I would say I've had an easier time being able to rest, take a nap if I need to, lay down if I need to. Just stuff like that is much easier to come by, and resting in general, than it was with my first 2 pregnancies. And that's the kind of thing that sticks out the most to me. And last minute, I would also add Sophie's kind of interaction with it. Obviously, at 9 months old, Sophie didn't know anything that was going on. Even when her sister was born at 1.5 years, she was like, cool, what else can I do right now? And for a while, she didn't really understand, you know, that that was her sister and she's not leaving. She's here permanently, forever. And it took a while, but now she's older. She's 4.5. She understands a ton, more than you expect them to understand. And even Remy does. At 3 years old, she understands a lot too. So it's been very different in that respects as well, because I feel like the kids, especially Sophie, have been a lot more involved in this pregnancy than in the past. The next question is, do you use baby food or kid food pouches? Are you going to make your own baby food? I made my own food with Sophie, maybe Remy too. I can't really remember, but I know I definitely did with Sophie because I had a baby bullet. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And yeah, that just didn't last long. It was really hard to find non-GMO organic vegetables that were fresh, and the frozen ones were super expensive, and as fast as we were going through them, it just didn't make sense. It was cheaper to buy the pre-made stuff. Also with Sophie, we did not have very much money at all, so the cheapest, most budget-friendly option was the best one to go with, so it didn't last long. And then with Remy, I think I tried to, with all things considered, with her feeding aversion, I tried to be as hands-on as possible, but I definitely have used the food pouches with both the girls. They are very quick and convenient. I feel like you can find really great versions anymore. I mean, just even ones you can find in Walmart. Really good options. But I'm kind of on the fence. I'm gonna see how I feel. Lexie is going to be born as soon as both girls start preschool again. I'm heavily involved in the preschool, so I just don't know if it's going to be something that I make time for. I'll see when I get there, so I don't know. Either way, I don't have anything against either method, basically. And the next question is, did you go to college? I went to college for all of like a hot month, and then I dropped out, so I got basically none of the education for all of the first semester worth of student loans. And I literally dropped out right at the last second, or else I would have been able to be reimbursed. Of course, I waited until after the deadline. But no, I did not go to college. I, however, did go to cosmetology school, and I am a licensed cosmetologist, advanced cosmetologist, as Ohio now calls them. The next question is, how did you and Mark meet? And that is that we worked at a pizza shop together. True love, making pizza dough in the morning. The waitresses and the delivery drivers, one of each, had to be there in the morning, very early morning, to make dough together, because our pizza shop did make fresh dough. And that's kind of how our friendship started, and eventually our relationship. And yeah, we have really good memories there. I really loved working with him, honestly. And the next question is, if you could travel the world, where would your dream destination be at? And I feel like I've answered this quite a bit. I feel like I leave it in every time because I'm like, I love that question. And then every time I go to answer it, I'm like, I think I've said this before. But honestly, after getting the ancestry DNA results back that I got this year, I think it's changed a little bit. I typically say Paris, I typically say basically anywhere in Europe, but after getting those test results back, it kind of has changed. I would like to visit the places that my ancestors are from. That'd be really cool to me. I don't know if I've ever mentioned it, but both of my parents had closed adoptions, so we don't have medical records, background information, or anything on my parents. We did not know what our heritage was, and my test results said that my heritage was mainly Scottish, Irish, German, and Russian. And I had like 1% of Finland in me. But I would really like to go visit those places. I think that'd be really awesome. But again, basically anywhere. I don't know, besides places that maybe not be the safest, I don't know that I would ever turn down a trip to go anywhere, whether it's in the United States where I live or if it's outside of the country. As long as I'm gonna be generally safe, I'd probably just go for it. The next question is, how do you keep your relationship with your husband good while balancing being a mom and work? And that is the fact that I try my hardest to make sure that we are still Mark and Alia, and we put our relationship first sometimes. I feel like it's one of the biggest things I've seen debated is whether your relationship comes first, whether your children come first, and all that kind of stuff. I'm not really going to get into that debate. I personally strive to put both first. I believe there is a time and place to put one ahead of the other and things like that. I think it's very much a personal thing and a very much like a daily life kind of situation, but we have to make ourselves a priority. We cannot always be mom and dad, or you start to lose the Mark and Alia, the husband and wife aspect of it, in my personal opinion. So we make sure that we are Mark and Alia. We are who we fell in love with, and we make sure that we take that time to remember that kind of stuff. So whether it's, you know, making time at home and doing stuff like that. I mean, there's times where if the girls go spend the night at their grandparents, we don't even go do anything. It's not like we need to go out every time. It's just about like spending quality one-on-one time with each other, having meaningful conversations with each other, communication, stuff like that. So we try to do those things. I think that if you just have this general ethic of constantly doing what you can to make sure that your relationship is in the best place, you just kind of get used to it. You can feel when things are off, and you can kind of stop before it turns into a big snowball monster problem. But that's just all personal kind of opinions from me, and that's what we do. The next question is, can I start pumping before giving birth? That is a huge question that needs to be between you and your medical professionals. I will say most times it's not even necessary. I can understand why it sounds appealing. A lot of people are interested in it. A lot of people like want to get ahead of the ball and stuff like that, but it's honestly not necessary most of the time. And if it's something that you want to do regardless, you know, whether or not that kind of matters to you, then it needs to be a conversation between you and whatever healthcare provider you're seeing for your pregnancy, and also consulting an IBCLC, which stands for Internationally Board Certified Lactation Consultant. I'll put a search engine down below in case you don't know one off of hand. It'll find the one closest to you. But I would have a conversation with those two first, because a lot of it has to do with your medical background, your pregnancies and your history with those, deliveries, like literally so much to do with your medical personal background that no one can tell you other than your medical professionals if it's a good idea or not. So definitely consult the people on your team. The next question is it possible to increase milk supply when the baby is 3 to 4 weeks by exclusively pumping? And I would say yes, it is probably possible. Even if you haven't been doing things the best of ways, maybe there's something wrong in your routine, maybe you don't have the correct flange size, whatever kind of trouble you may be having, if you can correct it and get it on the right track and you're consistent about staying on that right track, within a few weeks you should see slow increase. And if you don't, or if you're doing everything right and then you continue to not see an increase, I would consult an IBCLC. You may have something underlying that prohibits you from producing so much milk. You know, something that again you're not going to know until someone can sit down with you, take your background, take your medical history, things like that, really get a one-on-one take on the situation. So if you are struggling and you know that you've got that pumping, that exclusively pumping checklist all good to go, and you're still struggling with supply, I would really seek out an IBCLC, because there may be something underlying and it could have nothing to do with you. That being said, if they try to tell you it's because you're exclusively pumping, they're wrong. So go find another one. But that's my recommendation there. The next question is, are you having another C-section or are you trying for a VBAC? And then if you are able to do a VBAC, are you trying to go natural or unmedicated? And the first question, I will be having another C-section. I was also asked why I have C-sections or why I've had them in the past. And just know, if they weren't medically necessary, I wouldn't have them. And that's about the extent that I think I've ever explained it and that I will ever explain it, because I don't know why, but for some reason I've noticed a trend on any kind of public platform that when a woman says she's getting a C-section for XY reason, the internet seems to think that it's a questionable reason that they can give their personal take on. I'm not interested in that game. I won't play it. You know, nobody knows your medical history other than your medical team, so that's where it's gonna stay with me. But just know I would not have major abdominal risky surgery if it wasn't absolutely 110% medically necessary. And as far as the VBAC, if I was ever lucky enough to have one, I probably would have tried to go unmedicated, but that doesn't mean that if the pain got to be too much that I wouldn't do it. Like I wouldn't get an epidural. The next question is, how old were you when you had Sophie? I was 21 when we got pregnant with her, 21 when I had her. I was 22 when we got married, and then I was 22 when we had Remy, and then I will be 26 when I have Lexie. So yeah, yes, that is all. I had to think about all my dates, but yes, that is how old I was for all that. I'm currently 25, but by the time I have Lexie, I'll be 26. My birthday is in a couple months, and I'm not due until the end of August. But the next question is, why do you not choose to show your children's faces? I've addressed this a couple different times. I've thought about doing a very specific video on it, but then I feel like I'm opening up myself for people's opinions and takes on it, and that's certainly not what I'm trying to achieve, because that's not what I'm doing there. As far as why, it just basically comes down to two things. The main one's privacy, the second one's protection. As far as privacy goes, It's just the fact that I don't think that everybody deserves to see my children. Not everybody plays an active role in their lives. Not everybody cares about them. Not everybody, you know what I'm saying? But some people still feel like they might be entitled to see them. I don't agree with that kind of mentality. Even on our own personal social media platforms, we're still pretty reserved about how much we share about them. It's just something, I don't know, we're pretty private people. We don't share a ton. We choose what we want to share, what we don't want to share, even when it doesn't have to do with the kids. So it's just kind of who we are as people. We're just kind of keep to ourselves. And the second part of that, with the protection aspect of it, I wanted to read something I wrote on Instagram because I feel like it just encompasses what I want to say about it. But I wrote over on Instagram, not everyone on the internet has even decent intentions. I'm not just talking about the disgusting, I'm talking about the crazy too. No one needs access to hundreds of photos of my children except myself and their father. Their protection and privacy is first and foremost. We consider that every time you see a post, video, or story. At the end of the day, it's our decision as to what extent we share our children. We do what we think is best in the best interest of our kids without letting the darkness of what could happen taint everything. You shouldn't live in fear, but you don't need to deny its validity either. So I try to keep a balance. And that's exactly how I feel about it. I thought a long time before writing out that kind of response, but that kind of sums it up as a whole. The next question is, when do you plan to potty train? I want to put this in here because my girls are already potty trained. So if you need videos on that, I have two, and I will link those in the description for you to look at because that's what we basically followed for both girls. And the next question is, would you consider vlogging? Not anymore. Honestly, I had a lot of time to think about it because if you guys remember, I said, well, I'd want a lighter camera and all this stuff. And I kind of toyed around with the idea of it. And over time, I've just increasingly got to the, no, I'd rather not. Personally, when I watch other people's vlogs and I see the comments, it is just everybody giving their take on that person's personal life and scrutinizing literally every decision that the person makes in the video. And it's like, that's so not what vlogs are supposed to be about. And I feel like this especially happens with moms. I know that people who vlog also get a ton of support, and I feel like that'd be really encouraging. The connections from that would be really great too. But I just feel like when you're a mom and you vlog, there's just so much scrutiny about all these tiny little things that you don't even notice, being like our everyday mom and doing things without, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's just things that you do without even hesitation. You're just being a mom and being in the moment. But the people who would watch that vlog will break it down and make it into something so much more. And that's not what I'm trying to have. I feel like the comment section and the people who watch my videos, they're here because they genuinely like it. They're here because they want to consume my content, and I don't know, there's just not a whole lot of negativity, and I really just don't want to open the door to that because I'm also not going to take people's personal opinions on what they might see for 15 seconds. I think that's what people really need to remember when you're watching those kind of videos is you think you might know, but you probably most likely don't. So for that reason, I don't see myself vlogging. Also, having two cameras, if I get another one, there's something else I want that is like an upgrade from this one. And I don't want to spend the money on a smaller vlogging camera because that's what I would carry around. I'm not trying to be one of these big shots with these great cameras vlogging. And I just don't want to spend the money on that. I'd rather invest it more into my sit-down videos. So that's my kind of answer with that. And I'm back. Had to take a momentary break because my camera overheated and I forgot the rules of the game when it comes to summer filming in my house. But the next question is, what is the quietest breast pump you used? I will be pumping at work and I'm in cubicles, so I would like something that is not too loud and portable. Technically, the quietest pumps I've ever used would, the number one be Ardo. The Ardo Calypso. That was the quietest one. I hardly ever heard that thing. The second quietest pump was probably the Medela Sonata. However, with both of those pumps, my personal recommendation is to not spend your money or your free breast pump on those pumps. In my personal opinion, I found them horrible, so I wouldn't recommend them. However, if you need a quieter pump, I would say go with the Motif Duo. But those two would be my recommendation, so you get a good quality pump along with it not being too terribly loud. And the next question is, are you still a part of BBB, which stands for Breast Bottle and Beyond? It's a support group on Facebook. It's a group that I recommended time and time again through all of my breastfeeding videos, maybe even some of my breast pump videos. I can't really remember where I always mention them at, but yes, I am still a part of all the BBB groups. I just am no longer an admin. I stepped down, oh man, maybe it's 2 years. I was thinking it was only one. Maybe it's 2 years. I can't really remember. But it's been a while since I stepped down as admin. But I'm still a member and I'm still a part of those groups. And I still recommend them, first and foremost. The next question is, do you plan on doing anything different with Lexie than with the big sisters? And I thought about this long and hard because it was one of the most upvoted questions on the community tab. But I honestly can't think of anything. As a baby, as an infant, not that I can really think of. I may wear her more, but that would just be out of having two preschoolers who are going to have activities and things to do. Just might make things easier. I'm more experienced with it, I'm more confident and things like that. So if she needs something different from us, we definitely will do whatever Lexie needs, but nothing really comes to mind. I can't, yeah, I really try to rack my brain, but I can't really think of anything. Now, if you probably go back and watch other videos, I probably said something, but because I'm specifically trying to think about it, it's not coming to me. But the next question is, what would you have named your baby if it was a boy? And Mason Avery. We've been together for going on 8 years, and I would say at least 7 of those, it was Mason Avery. And yeah, he would have the same initials as his dad, which I thought was pretty cute. The last question from the community tab is, weird question, but where do you guys eat dinner? I've never seen a kitchen table in your videos. And I found this pretty funny because other people upvoted it, so you guys must want to know. But we don't have a kitchen table. You're correct, you've never seen one. So we eat on the couch, or we sit down and we eat with the kids at their kiddie table. It just kind of depends what kind of dinner it is and how I'm feeling. Now that I'm pregnant in the SPD, sometimes I don't want to sit on that hard floor. It just kind of depends, like I said. But we have like the kids table. We also have the picnic table inside right now. And sometimes we'll sit here on the couch and they'll sit over there and they'll eat their dinner. Or most of the time, or we'll go sit down, or at least Mark will with them sit over there and eat dinner. When we have another house, it'll be more important, but we kind of like how things are. We are kind of getting to the point where a dining room table would be nice, but I personally don't want to sacrifice it for the kind of space that we have now. The space just works perfectly, so yeah, that's what we do. Sit on the floor, sit on the couch, and the kids sit at their table, basically. And then a question from Instagram was, what is my policy on people that visit baby and mama in the hospital? I guess this is something we're doing differently with Lexie. This time around, we are not having any visitors the first day at all. The only person who's going to be at the hospital with us is my sister, and all of that is for one reason. I've had an extreme reaction to my anesthesia with both of my C-sections. I get violently ill after I get into my recovery room. I am itchy head to toe. I'm very much out of it from the drugs and stuff, and I just feel like in the past I haven't been able to appreciate my girls meeting for the first time. I haven't really remembered a whole lot from the first day. It all kind of blurs together. I'm in an enormous amount of pain because of the throwing up right after you have abdominal surgery. Throwing up obviously is not fun either. None of the symptoms that I experience after the anesthesia feel great. So for that reason, my sister will be coming to mainly stay with me so Mark can go with Lexie when she needs to go to the nursery or she needs anything done, stuff like that. And someone's with me at all times because I need help throwing up right after surgery. And yeah, that is strictly because I don't do well the first day. And then the second day, I'm sure I'm going to be feeling just fine, and that's when we'll have the girls come and any visitors that want to come and stuff like that. But I mean, common sense is basically what I preach. Don't come if you're sick. You know, wash your hands before you hold her. Don't smoke before you hold her, things like that. You know, I just feel like they're common sense, but I do reiterate it. And yeah, that's all I can really think of. And then my very last question for the Q&A is, do you prepare freezer meals or any type of meals ahead of time in preparation for those first few weeks when you are home with the baby? And the answer to this is I had every intention to with Remy. Let me back up. With Sophie, no intentions, didn't do it. With Remy, had all the intentions, didn't do it though. And with this baby, I have every intention to, and I'm gonna make myself do it. It's the reason I'm answering this question, is to hold myself accountable. Because both times after having both girls, we eat like such crap afterwards. You know, I don't wanna cook, he doesn't wanna cook. We have so much going on. There's so much like big things like adding a new family member and other things that are building up, that like cooking is always something we will put on the back burner if it's too much for us. So we'll just eat takeout, which is fine, but you don't need to eat takeout like 4 times a week. It's crazy. It also gets crazy expensive. So for that reason, this time around, for the sake of eating better, for the sake of just it being less stress, both financially and just kind of like off our plates, no pun intended, but I am going to make freezer meals ahead of time. My amazing would be great in a perfect world kind of goal is a month. If I could have a month worth of meals, just dinner, maybe some breakfast and lunch, but those aren't nearly as hard as dinner, I will be over the freaking moon. But more realistically, at least the 2 weeks that Mark is home and the first 2 weeks of obviously having baby, I will definitely have at least that. Like I said, she will be born right as the girls are starting preschool. There's going to be a lot going on, and I don't want to have to worry about dinner. So for that reason, I'm answering this question. I'm going to make sure that I do these meals ahead of time. I'll bring you guys along, of course. But yes, that's the last question for this Q&A. I'm sure it's very long, but you guys submit such great questions that I don't want to leave anything out. And I feel like if you're watching a Q&A, you're probably down for like a 30-minute video anyways. So yeah. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And as always, thanks for watching.